Hey guys, so today I wanted to try something new to make a little voiceover, trying to explain how I did this little painting. So I'm starting with a really rough sketch, nothing crazy. I don't like line art, so I'm not trying to make it perfect, just something to get me started. Plus this time I wanted to draw Shinobu from Monogatari series, so this is more of a anime looking character, and I could never really get that look right. I don't really understand anime-ish proportions, so I'm fixing and tweaking things, and I will do that a lot later too. I'm gonna paint over all the lines anyway, so yeah, there's just no point in trying to make the perfect sketch. I also think it is very important to have some kind of end goal in mind, some kind of look that you want to achieve. Maybe it is just about the mood or the rendering or something like that. So here are the artists that I was kind of looking up to when making this drawing. So after I am more or less satisfied with the sketch, I use the lasso tool to make a selection of the whole sketch and just fill it in with some kind of base color. And after that I am just adding some kind of texture just to make things a bit more interesting, and I work on the silhouette on the whole thing, because it is very important so it reads well and looks somewhat interesting and appealing even before adding all the details and those cherries on top. Then I add the base color for hair and start to work on the light. So with this kind of technique, it is very simple. You just have two values essentially, one for light and one for shadow. The base color that I used before, it works as a shadow, and then I add very bright, very light value for light. I'm not going too dark with the base value, but I do go very light with the lightest value, since I want this to be more of a light key painting. And again, I work with the whole silhouette of the light value, trying to make it look interesting, appealing. Again, uh, not really caring about anatomy or anything like that here, just worrying about the shapes, making things look interesting. Then I use the overlay layer, adding some kind of gradients, making the transition between light and shadow a bit more saturated. So from here I'm just starting to introduce like halftones, adding some darker values, adding some lighter values, while trying to keep things more or less consistent. Just slowly building up the values, pushing things a little bit darker, a little bit brighter. You gotta be very patient at this stage. I think the edges are very important. You really don't want to make everything look soft and muddy, and you also don't want to make everything look super sharp, so you gotta really find that balance. So I do a lot of smudging and then I just go over again, keeping some edges sharp, so it creates a very nice like balance and contrast between edges. The easiest way to add sharper edges and to literally work on details is to use the lasso tool. So you just make a selection, fill it in either manually with your brush or just using the gradient tool. That also works pretty well. And then you just smudge one side while keeping the other very sharp, so it gives it a nice contrast. So at this point I finally start to work on the face, introducing darker values, particularly in the eyes, because I do think that the darkest values on the face are supposed to be the eyes. If you take a look at other artworks, almost always you can find like even the nostril being very light in value, the lips sometimes being completely smudged, but the eyes are almost always the darkest on the face, Even when you work with lighter values, you just gotta keep the eyes relatively darker so it adds depth to the face. At this point I completely dropped the sketch and just work without it. I also do add a little bit of line along the side of the face, but it was kind of experimental. I didn't mean to do that, but I thought it looks nice, so I left it. I also do introduce a lot of new colors in the face because they're actually like all the colors in the world, literally, that you can find in the face: purples, greens, whatever. The key is to keep things rather desaturated, so you can actually add like any color and it won't really look off because it is in a gray area. So I really suggest that you keep the whole work kind of desaturated while increasing the saturation in the places where you want the viewer to look at. One thing that I also like to do is to leave the values of the lower part of the face and the upper part of the neck kind of similar, or just smudge the edge there. So it kind of like the face transitions into the neck and not like they're separate parts, because very often you would find in the artworks that there's just very dark shadow while the face is, the lower part of the face is very bright. I think that kind of looks artificial a little bit. So that's my personal thing. Maybe you could try that too, I don't know. So throughout the work, I was really struggling with painting her mouth because I could never really understand the structure of the anime mouth. It's very small and like I don't get it. So I decided to just completely drop this idea and repaint it, making it a bit bigger, a bit more realistic looking, and that was a really good decision because I like it way more like this. So in the end, I also increased the saturation a little bit and liquefied her face to make her look a bit more anime, kind of like in the show. I didn't record it though, but it took like 3 minutes, if not less. So that's kind of it. The whole work took me 2 hours and 37 minutes.